Good morning. This is Wednesday, June the 10th. It is about 8:30 in the morning. I am not on work today because I'm covering a weekend shift, but I thought today would be really fun to do some sewing. I've got some fabric here ready for quilting. I kind of picked out some quilt colors that I want to do. Their fabric quarters based on a tutorial I saw from Just Get It Done Quilts, and then I've got to clean off my studio table here, but I've got my coffee. I'm pretty much ready to go. I gotta iron some stuff out. My hair is a hot mess today, but that is okay. We're gonna be drinking our coffee. We're gonna be doing some ironing. We're gonna be doing some sewing. I do want to iron out the quilt fabrics that I want to use, but then I also want to plan, I want to make, since I'm going to be working from home until September, based on current predictions from the World Health Organization, I wanted to make like a body sling for my dog. One of my dogs, Princess, is very cuddly, but she tends to go through like false pregnancies, but she also is just very kind of like, she's kind of needy. So I wanted to build like a body sling to where I can hold her close to me, but I don't have to actually be using any of my hands to hold her. I can just have her close to me, and I can pet her when I want to, but she can just kind of sit there and relax near me, but I can continue to do my work. So a body sling is also something that I kind of wanted to work on. But we're just going to kind of go through the different process, the things that I do, and the fun little the projects that I kind of come up with on my own, but we're also going to be cutting some blocks for a quilt top. So come along and let's have some fun. The ironing is done, it's time to cut. So because we're using fat quarters, I have to basically, I have to cut off the edges to square everything off, and then I'm going to cut it into the size of the blocks that I'm eventually going to be using to make the blocks for the quilt top. But I'm not going to be doing that until later. I'm going to cut them down to size, but I'm not going to start doing the quilt top yet, because I want to kind of get this sling made for the dog before I start like diving in on a huge project. So that's going to be next. We're going to square this off, and then we're going to cut the pieces down to size. And just like that, our blocks are done. So that gives me 32 blocks to work with. I'm going to be making kind of a smaller quilt, maybe just slightly smaller than twin size. But since this will only be my second quilt ever, I figured that's probably big enough, because it's going to give me a chance to work with actual backing and batting, because I haven't actually worked with those. The last one I actually used feltable fleece, which is what I use for my bags, but it's the only thing I had at the time, and it worked, but it's probably not what I should have used. So I actually have batting this time. It's polyester batting, not cotton batting, but I got it for $8 at Walmart. So if you've never done quilting and you're worried about the price of quilting supplies, get you some like cheap fat quarters from like Michael's or Joann's. And then get some polyester cotton or polyester quilting batting from Walmart, and then just get like a big piece of, if you can find it, get a big piece of fabric for your backing. It's the 108 inches wide, but if you can't find that, I definitely recommend going to like Goodwill or something and just buy you a cotton sheet. I know it's not probably the best thing, but and it's not quilting cotton, but if you're not like trying to make the prettiest of quilts, or you're not trying to like make the most expensive or special thing, like if you're just trying to make a quilt for the sake of making a quilt, go buy cheap used sheets, wash them once or twice, and then use that as your quilt backing, because most sheets are going to be big enough to be a quilt backing. Personally, I would rather do that than spend $8 a yard for fabric that's wide enough, because that's gonna end up being like $24 for one backing that you're gonna end up trimming, versus you can go to Goodwill and get like a top sheet for what, like $3-4 bucks. So I would recommend doing that instead of getting a nice quilt backing, unless you're gonna make like a super special quilt, then maybe put in the money. But I've actually got like some cheap fabric that I'm gonna use for the backing on this one. But for the purposes of like future quilts, I think I'm just gonna use top sheets. I'm gonna get maybe like ones that don't have a high thread count, so they're a little bit sturdy, but a sheet will do just fine. So because that's done, I'm not gonna do anything else with this. We're gonna move on to trying to figure out exactly how I wanna make this body sling. So I pulled the fabric that I want to use. This hat may come off. It's a little warm in here. Hold on, I'm going to turn my fan. I'm in my garage. It is not climate controlled. So since this is going to be kind of a bigger project, I didn't want to pull from the stash that I have in fabric, because a lot of that is for bags, or they're just fat quarters, and putting together a bunch of fat quarters for this project just didn't seem like something I wanted to do. I wanted to work with as many solid pieces as I could. So what I have is a bunch of like different outdoor fabrics, and I have them by the bolt. I got them on clearance at Walmart a while ago, but I paid $3 for the bolt. So I picked this. This is this is what I call generic tablecloth fabric. I'm pretty sure I had a tablecloth that was made of this when I was still living with my parents. So there's a lot of this, but the convenient thing is that there's already a big piece that was separate. I guess somebody got it cut and then realized they didn't want it, which is fine. That will do for me. So I think this is really all I'm gonna need. Looks like to be about a yard. And so I'm gonna press this out. Not that that's really gonna do much. It is cotton, but it's not like a sturdy cotton. In fact, it is woven, but it's loosely woven. So I'm not really sure that even ironing this is gonna matter. Just kind of trying to see if it spreads out, and it seems to spread out a lot. It seems like it's gonna be kind of stretchy, which I actually kind of like. The other thing is, in terms of all of the outdoor fabrics that I have, because I have some cotton canvas, this is probably the softest of all of them, and I definitely want it to be soft for the dog. But the other thing is, because of the structure of this, I'm not sure I'm gonna need to like line it. I think this will be sturdy enough. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay it out on the cutting table, and we're gonna see I wanna get an idea, because I think I'm gonna do it on the fold. I'm gonna do it on the fold side. I wanna get an idea, there's threads everywhere, of how much for the bottom of this, because I'm gonna make kind of like a boat that's open at the top. So it's gonna be kind of like a hammock, and then it's gonna have a strap that goes around, but I want the strap maybe to be open here and to put some D-rings so I can have something to tighten or loosen as needed. But then it also makes it adjustable for anybody else that wants it, especially if it's something that people are like, oh my gosh, I love that, can you make me one? Then, I don't have to change up the sizing. I can just use the same template every time, and then you've got something that's adjustable. So we've got our yard of fabric. Let's move over to the cutting table and kind of decide what we want to do. I had to make some adjustments on my table because this is bigger than I anticipated. So this is about a yard of fabric. Actually, I think it's about an inch wider. But this is a quite long piece of fabric. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, this would be great quilt backing too, because it's cut this way and the length is this way. This would actually probably make a pretty good quilt backing. Okay, so hammock. Princess is probably about 20 inches long. So it's here. And I'm not going to need this full length. But what I am going to do is I'm going to roll in the edges and create like a nice hem so that I don't have any raw edges showing. But I want to cut it on the fold. The other thing is I don't need it to be too, like I want it to be able to hold her, but I don't need it to be too deep. So I'm thinking maybe at the 12-inch mark, we'll cut off here. So let me cut this down to 12 inches and get that out of the way. Well, and we'll use that for the straps. That's what we'll use for the straps. Actually, before I cut it at 12, let me fold this down. And since we're only going to go 20 inches wide, what I'll do is, well, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square this up because these are not lining up correctly. Let me actually cut this off at the yard since they cut it an inch wide. That'll square it up down here. This end's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because the straps are going to be made with a bias tape maker, I don't have any right here, they're up in my tool thing. I'm going to use a bias tape maker, so the longer that the strap is that I don't have to connect them together, that's going to be better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these at, if I cut it at 1.5 inches, the bias tape maker I usually make is 3/8 of an inch, or it ends up with a 3/8 of an inch piece. And I don't know if that's what I want for this, even though, but my D-rings are only 3/4 of an inch. Maybe that's what I mean, 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, I should cut this at 1.5 inches wide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut this at 21 inches so that I have room to play with for the hem. Okay, so that's going to be extra fabric. Now, what I want to do is cut this at the 13-inch mark. And because this is still a little longer than my ruler, so the other thing I want to do is grab a Sharpie. I know there's like fabric pencils and stuff, but I don't have those. For this boat-like shape, thinking here is where we're going to want to connect it. I'm going to come down like this. And down like that. Or, because that seems a little compact. I could go, if I just kind of cut off the corners here, and then I can play with this area up here. So we could just do like here and here. Leave this open. So this part I am not great at. This is what's called a hemming foot. It's a wide hemming foot. I'm not very good at this. The idea is that you're going to take your fabric, you're going to put it in and kind of roll it through so it creates this rolled hem. And then somehow you're supposed to be able to continue feeding it through the foot, and it will continue to roll and sew. Again, I am not great at this, so this may turn out to be an absolute failure, but we shall see. We shall see. I can get this fabric to roll. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Well, that went a little better than I thought it would. That one definitely went smoother than the last one. Well, somehow I forgot to hit record so that you could see me hem that close up. But, okay. So all of these hems are now rolled and sewn down. So we're not gonna have to worry about any of the loose ends coming out. I mean, there's a couple of places where I screwed up, but that's okay. This is just for me. And also I'm using a fabric that I'm not really familiar with. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold it back in that half that we were gonna, where I made my markings. And then we're gonna sew along that, one, the seam, and two, the curve down here to kind of set the shape. All right, not striving for absolute perfection here, so this is gonna be fine. I'm gonna trim here, just cut this bit off around the bottom edge. Just like that, so that when we turn this inside out, even though I've got that nice boat drawing there on the edge, oops. That's okay though, that's not a problem. Again, just for me, I can always have that part facing towards me anyway. But the other thing that we could do, trim some of this extra thread, is if I wanted, on the inside and the outside, I'm not too worried about the inside, but if I wanted to, actually I might go ahead and do this. You can do a zigzag stitch on your edges so they don't fray. Kinda It's not the greatest, but oops, hold on. Come on, camera. Puts a zigzag on those fraying edges so that you've got a little bit more sturdiness with the stitch. I have no idea if that's a legitimate sewing thing. That's just what my mom used to do. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to make my straps. And first we're going to have to iron, then we're going to have to sew the straps separately, and then we're going to sew the straps onto the pouch. So this tool here is called a bias tape maker, and so what you do is you take a strip of fabric and you feed it through the back end here. Then it comes out the front end with the edges folded into the center. I believe this is the right size. This set of bias tape makers, I bought a set of 4. They're new to me and they're labeled a little different. The other ones I own, I got from somebody who was, like, their mom had passed away or something, and they were labeled with what the inch is, because these are only labeled in millimeters. So this is 18 millimeters, which I believe is supposed to be 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So you can see there it's popping out the end, and those middle two, or it's folded right there into the center. So what you do is you pull this up, because you're going to pull this away from you, and that will help you keep your hand away from the iron as you place your iron there. You're going to pull this away, and as you pull it away, you place the iron down to keep those creases, like that. So the only thing is, because this is not quilting cotton, this doesn't finger press very well, which is kind of what most fabrics would do, is as it comes out of the tip of this, it would kind of finger press down, and then you could just bring the iron. So you could pull this a good distance and then place your iron, whereas on this one, I'm gonna have to keep it pretty close to the tape maker in order to make sure that I get the creases where I want them. I'm also using steam. I find that steam kind of helps keeping creases. I know there are certain times you're not supposed to use steam. I know that they say don't use steam when quilting, but that seems to be kind of a personal preference. Anyway, I'm gonna make these other 3, or these other 2. Well, here we go. She didn't fight me, so that's good. Hold on, let me tilt this down so you can see a little bit more. There we go. She's in there. And she's not growling, she's not barking, she's actually seems to be quite cozy. And it's nice and open, so, you know, she's not struggling. Now the idea is I don't want to, like, I'm not going to be carrying her around standing. The idea is that I'll be working at my desk and her back will be in my lap. 'Cause this is how she likes to lay. She doesn't really lay belly down, she lays belly up. Her back will be sitting in my lap, but this way if she wants to be there next to me, I can still use both hands, but she can be in my lap without me worrying that she's gonna fall over or anything. And if she needs out, she can let me know. So, oh, she loves this. Oh. That little folded arm is what tells me that she's not upset, because that's how she sits a lot. Oh, she's so adorable. Well, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed kind of figuring this out with me. And yeah, thanks for joining the vlog, and I'll see you next time on my channel. Thanks.